Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we're going to unpack the first live webinar of 2025 from Mr. Ash Mufareh.
Yeah, his first big one for the year.
Exactly. We've got a pretty detailed summary and even some direct bits from the event.
Right.
Our plan really is to dig in, go past the surface, and figure out the main takeaways. What does it all actually mean?
Yeah, it's quite a picture, isn't it? You've got the past stuff, the challenges, how that's kind of shaping things now. Then there's the whole tech evolution piece, which is always moving.
Always.
And the role of trust, integrity, and then looking ahead, the strategy. Lots to cover.
Definitely. Okay, so let's start maybe with those past challenges. That seems like where he began.
It was. Right near the start, he expressed gratitude, sort of set the scene.
And it sounds like he didn't really sugarcoat things, got into some difficult history pretty quickly.
No, he didn't. He was quite direct about some big operational changes, like the Dubai closure. That was significant.
Huge implications there, I imagine.
Definitely. And he also brought up specifically the difficulties they faced in Bangladesh and Egypt, too.
Right. Which, makes you think about just how complex running things internationally can be. Different markets, different problems.
Absolutely. Adaptability is key.
And it wasn't only, geographical hurdles, was it? He seemed to be looking inward, too.
Yeah, there was a definite sense of reflection. He mentioned, with regret, some past staff issues.
And these weren't small things, apparently. Sounded like unproductive management, maybe even criminal behavior.
That's what the summary suggests, yes. And the fact he emphasized moving past it implies it was, pretty serious, probably involved some major internal shifts. What struck me was how open he was about the money side, too.
Oh.
Yeah, the frustration over, investments in Bangladesh that just didn't pan out. And Egypt sounds like a costly setup there, and management issues were part of the failure.
Wow. That's pretty candid for a public forum.
It is. It really highlights the risks, doesn't it? Financial risks, need for good oversight, ethical leadership, all that.
Totally. And then the bit about having to legally distance himself from some former employees because of criminal acts, that really paints a picture.
It really does. Sounds like navigating some serious storms.
So after covering that difficult ground, the conversation shifted towards technology.
Yes, quite a pivot. Focused on how tech advancements are changing, well, everything, how we live.
But not just the good stuff.
No, and that was interesting. He actually acknowledged potential downsides or negative side effects that come with progress moving so fast.
Yeah.
More nuanced take.
That's important, isn't it? It's easy to just get hyped about innovation.
Right. But you need to think about the other side, the ethical side, maybe. He didn't spell it out, but the implication was there.
And he used that example, the one about kids in China learning AI really young.
Yeah, that's a powerful image.
It really hammers home how quickly these skills are becoming, essential, foundational.
It suggests a future where AI literacy isn't niche, it's just standard, like reading is now.
Makes you think about the pressure on everyone, individuals, companies, to adapt.
For sure. And his call for collective action, that was interesting too, saying we need to work together, remember our shared humanity to make sure these shifts are good for everyone.
So not just adapting, but actively shaping the change.
Exactly. He encouraged taking risks, but for positive reasons. Action is needed if you want meaningful change, not just sitting back.
Right. Okay, so from tech shifts to community, that seemed like the next big theme.
It was, and the tone felt quite different here. Very appreciative.
Yeah.
A lot of gratitude expressed towards the community. He talked about leaving good memories, acknowledging people's journeys, their contributions. It felt quite personal.
So really valuing that human connection within the whole structure.
Very much so. It sounded like building those relationships, nurturing them, is a real priority.
He mentioned the impact of their support, how much difference it makes.
Yes, heartfelt efforts, significant impact. It paints the community as a vital asset, especially when you're dealing with challenges.
Yeah, that makes sense. A strong community can buffer a lot.
Exactly. And that leads right into accountability, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you talked about not wanting to disappoint people who've put their faith in the organization. That's a strong sense of responsibility tied to that community trust.
Ah, okay. Feeling responsible to the community.
Right. And apparently there was a sense of appreciation flowing back the other way, too, for his impact. So reciprocal.
Interesting. Okay, so shifting gears slightly.
Yeah.
What about the future? The strategic stuff?
Right. That came up, too. Talked about needing backup plans in business.
Which sounds pretty sensible given the past challenges they just discussed.
Absolutely. Preparedness. And then AI and digital products were flagged as key future directions.
No surprise there, really, with where the world's going.
Very timely focus. Seems aligned with the broader tech landscape we were just talking about.
And that emphasis on backups during setbacks, that's just, well, business 101 for staying afloat, isn't it?
Pretty fundamental, yeah.
Was there anything more specific?
There was a question, apparently, about commission structures. If they might change with this new model, the AI focus.
Oh, okay. Getting into the practical details for stakeholders.
Exactly. Shows they're thinking about how these shifts impact people financially.
Right. And then, interestingly, he talked about communication itself, his style.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
He stressed wanting open, personal communication.
Hmm.
Said he preferred speaking from the heart, basically, not just reading a script.
Going for authenticity.
Trying to build that genuine connection, it seems, which can be effective for trust.
Definitely. And what about negativity? Critics, did that come up?
It did, and his stance was pretty firm,
Oh, yeah.
basically.
They ignore it completely.
Just disregard it.
Yep. His views seem to be that critics lack credibility, so they're not worth the time or energy.
That's a bold line to take.
Mhm.
It is. A very clear boundary. The rationale, presumably, is to keep focus on positive progress, on people who are open to change, rather than getting bogged down.
Okay. Don't engage. Invest energy where it counts.
That seemed to be the message, which then kind of led into talking about the core offerings. Products, processes.
Right. The actual business mechanics.
Yeah. Importance of choosing the right products, focusing on user experience.
Makes sense.
And there were also mentions of, support and condolences,
Right.
suggesting a strong internal network there, personal support for him.
But back to the business side. Trust came up again.
Explicitly, as a cornerstone, and the need for verification.
Verification of what?
It wasn't totally specific in the summary, but likely related to processes, maybe security, ensuring things are reliable.
Got it. So acknowledging that business always has uncertainties.
Right, but committing to making things as secure and trustworthy as possible, improving processes, keeping customers satisfied, building that solid foundation.
Which is crucial, especially now. So the final big piece seemed to be about transparency and legal matters.
Yes, he addressed his own journey, stressing transparency again, but also cautioning patience.
Because of legal issues.
Exactly. He gave some historical context, trying to frame the present situation.
And it sounds like people have been following this for a while. Someone mentioned tracking his progress since 2018.
Yeah, a participant apparently acknowledged the long road, the growth, the challenges over that whole period. That's quite a time frame.
It really is. So looking ahead on that front.
He basically reassured people more info would come, when possible, when legal constraints allow, but he also managed expectations, stressed that some things just can't be discussed right now.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it? Transparency versus legal prudence.
Very delicate.
So he asked the community to respect those boundaries.
Pretty much. And also maybe reflect on their own expectations given the circumstances, which feels, pragmatic.
Yeah, realistic. Was there any sense of how things are going now on that front?
There was an indication, yeah. Mention of productive progress over the last 3 months or so. So ending on a somewhat positive, hopeful note for the future there.
Okay. So pulling it all together then, this deep dive into the webinar, it really gives us a wide view.
Definitely. You see the navigating of past issues, the embracing of tech, both good and bad sides.
Right. The critical role of the community, that trust factor.
Strategic plans, focus on AI, digital products, and trying to communicate openly, even with limitations.
It's a complex picture of an organization in motion, really, all drawn straight from this recent event.
Exactly. Gives you a lot to think about.
It does. And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? For any group, any project, how do you strike that balance? Acknowledging the tough stuff that happened while still keeping everyone focused forward, optimistic, strategic.
Yeah. And how much does that strong, supportive community really matter when you're trying to navigate all that?
It's a great question. Definitely something worth considering beyond just this specific context.